There's no question that the Georgia Bulldogs have one of the most talented rosters in college football, if not the most talented roster in the sport. That's what we saw the last 2 years. We're going to see the same thing, if not something very similar this year. But how many of the position groups do they have the best in the country? I don't. We know they have great position rooms. Last year, obviously, the legendary tight end room. There was really no disputing it was the best tight end room in college football. But I think there are three position groups this season that you could probably consider Georgia being the best in that front. And one's on defense and two are on offense. About to let you know, Ryan Curley from Dog Post here, talking about where's Georgia ruling college football right now, position-wise. Where this year on the field, where we're going to see it's like, wow, they can't compete with those guys. That group is just too good. We've seen Georgia in the past have really great running back rooms. We've seen them have great tight end rooms, obviously. We're going to see that again this year. And you're going to see some on the defensive side as well. Double Dogs, Dogstruction. Make sure you're checking those out. Links are down below, as well as the link for this shirt. You can find that at the Red Zone downtown Athens or online down below. I think that the linebackers, the middle linebackers more specifically, the tight ends, and the offensive line, I think you can make an argument for all three of those units as being the best in college football. I feel like I've talked about, not really recently, but I've discussed the linebackers a good bit, maybe a couple months ago. Look, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, Smile Monday. I get the production, first of all, speaks for itself, right? Jamon Dumas-Johnson was I think he was second team All-American, Buckets finalist, 45 solo tackles, 70 total, 4 sacks, and 3 passes defended. So he's a Buckets finalist. And guess what? Smile London had more tackles than him. He led the team with 76. He had 4 more solo tackles. He had the 1 sack. He had the 1 interception. I think that interception came against LSU, that tipped ball in the SEC championship game. They both impact the game in a way that a lot of linebackers don't, and they're just always at the ball. In the case of Dumas-Johnson, he's kind of like the leader in the middle. He replaced Nakobe Dean essentially, right? That guy in the middle who's kind of your captain in the middle. And then Smile Mondon is a little bit more of a freaky athlete that moves towards the outside too. He gets pressure on the edge. They both get pressure up through the middle as far as on pass defense, but they can go out and we've seen them struggle at times. I remember there's a particular play against Ohio State where Jamon Dumas-Johnson just got beat by a running back in coverage. So they're not perfect in any sense, but they are very, very good. Jalen Walker as well, the freshman behind them, Raylan Wilson's one of those guys. It's just a loaded room. I think you could argue it's the best in college football. Offensive line. All right, what are you missing? You're losing Broderick Jones, obviously a first-round left tackle. You lose Warren McClendon. I believe he went 5th round to the Rams. He went with Stetson Bennett. So you'll have 2 new tackles. So here's the kicker. Amarius Mims is probably a first-round NFL prospect, and he's going to be playing right tackle for the Georgia Bulldogs this season. And he's waited his turn, but in the postseason, he was the starting right tackle because Warren McClendon was out, obviously. So Mims has played in big moments. He has played a national championship. He has started in a semifinal game. So as much as he hasn't started a lot of games, well, he started big games, and it's very, it's similar to the Broderick Jones situation entering 2022, right? Didn't play a lot, but he played in big moments, obviously played in the national championship, and then is, one of the best offensive linemen in the country the next year. So I think we're going to see a very similar thing happen, and Mims actually has a little bit more experience than Jones did heading into this season. So I think he's a candidate to be a first-round pick. Cedric Van Pran, obviously, at this point will be a long-time starter for the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't even know how many games he started, but just very consistent in the middle. The guards, we know what you're getting with the guards with Ratledge and Truss. They got better as the season went on last year. And then at left tackle, I think right now the winner of that battle is Ernest Green. Now it could be Austin Blasky at the end of this, but Ernest Green, a guy that they're impressed with physically, a guy they say is going to really help them in the run game, and he's probably going to be at left tackle. So you can argue that's the best offensive line in college football. Michigan won the Joe Moore Award the last 2 seasons, the best offensive line in college football, right? Georgia felt slighted both years. I don't know if it happens 3 times in a row. I could see the Bulldogs coming out angry, and look, Stetson Bennett didn't get sacked very often. Part of that was because of his legs, but the other part of it is because of how talented the offensive line is. We'll know a lot more with a little bit more. He's not a statue, but a little bit more of a statue on Carson Beck, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean. He's just not as mobile as Stetson. And then look, it's hard to say they're not the best when they have the best by far at the position in Brock Bowers, that tight end room. Losing Darnell Washington, you lose Eric Gilbert. Gilbert obviously barely played for Georgia last year. Losing Darnell, look, at the end of the day, it sucks if you're the Georgia Bulldogs. It sucks to lose essentially a 6 lineman and a really freaky pass catcher, right? That they didn't use in the pass game very often, but when they did, it was like, wow, who's stopping that guy? This 6'8", 260-pound dude is catching with one hand and hurdling people, and people are just bouncing off of him. So, yeah, obviously it sucks to lose Darnell Washington. Oscar Delp, a very capable tight end. We saw him get better as a blocker in his moments as the year went on. He obviously got a lot of time against Ohio State when Darnell Washington didn't play, and he was a plus player for them. Great pass catcher. You could argue he's a more fluid route runner and more natural receiver than Brock Bowers is. Not saying he's better, but it seems more natural for him. Bowers obviously is a tool and not just a tight end. And then Lawson Lucky, freshman, a guy they like a lot, a guy I think played really well, has had a really good spring for Georgia. So when you have a unit where those are your top 3 guys, hard to argue they might not be the best. So I think Georgia, you could argue they have 3 of the best units in college football, right? And I didn't even examine the other units. I just talked about Georgia. I could do it more in depth where I talk about some other units. Obviously, there are some that rival, but the linebackers, the offensive line, tight ends, probably the best in Athens. All right, thanks for watching. Links are down below.